What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Just Fitness channel. Chelsea here, and we are continuing our barbell series today by talking about the front squat. So we've already gone over both versions of the back squat. We've talked high bar, we've talked low bar, and the little differences and subtleties in your setup and execution of those. So today we're going to talk front squat, which is going to be a little bit different. I really hope that y'all enjoy today's video. If you do, please like and share and subscribe, and get super excited because now that we have broken down all of the squats after today's video, we're going to be going into bench starting next week. So I'm super excited about that. I've recently kind of made some tweaks to my bench form that have really improved my ability to move some weight. So I'm really stoked about sharing some of that with you guys. Awesome. Let's dive in.
If you want to be amazing.
Now that I know that I would, finding the paper for good, smoking up none but the good. Now that I should, God be the girl, low be the bar, high be the bush, time to inhale.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the muscles that front squats target. So a front squat is definitely going to be more quad focused. It's a compound movement, so you're going to be using your whole body essentially to get the weight moving, but it's mainly quads that are going to be working, and a really big workout for your core. That was something that I remember taking me by surprise when I first started front squats, is how exhausted your core can get. And it's also a little bit tougher to breathe. I will say in the very, very beginning of learning how to front squat, the weight that I was moving, and I think Jacob and Cody would attest to this too, the weight that I was moving was like, well, front squat days are my favorite. I actually almost always programmed deadlifts and then front squats. Back when I was doing more of a powerlifting split, I would use front squats as a way to work my quads on my deadlift days. And the weight that I was using, I was like, oh yeah, front squats are super easy. But once you get into an actually like challenging weight, when your form gets to a place that you feel comfortable really pushing the weight, it becomes exponentially more difficult because the tax on your core and the ability to you brace during a low bar squat or a high bar squat as well, or even a bench, but it's like, I don't know, there's just something about the load being on the front of your body that is very taxing. So yeah, we're going to be, front squats is going to be more quad focused. Just like with the other squats, your foot placement and your degree of external rotation on your feet, the width between your feet, all of those things it's going to be different for every single person. Although I will say, depending on your mobility, you might find that your external rotation will be a little bit more on a front squat than on a low bar squat. Another thing that's going to be slightly different about front squats is your back angle. So just like with high bar squats, you're going to have to keep a vertical back angle in order to keep the bar over the middle of your foot versus a low bar squat where you're leaning forward a little bit more with your torso. So you really, really want to dig into this idea with a front squat of shooting your butt straight towards the floor rather than thinking about sitting back in a chair. So the cue of sitting back in a chair is definitely more for a low bar squat. And especially with a front loaded squat, you don't want any forward angle in the torso because that's where the weight is. And you want to keep that nice and stable and balanced. And forward leaning could lead to dropping the bar or having it roll a little bit too much. And you're definitely not going to get as much stress on the quads as you're looking for. So vertical back angle, a little bit of external rotation in the feet. You're shooting your butt straight down towards the floor. And then last but not least, the most uncomfortable part of the front squat is going to be your hand placement. So a lot of people do not have the mobility to hold the bar in like what would be like a traditional like Olympic weightlifting kind of position, where your hands are underneath the bar and your elbows are up, and the bar is actually sitting kind of like on your throat a little, on your delts. I get bruises like just underneath my collarbone a lot of times when I'm doing front squats, because it's just in this like position, especially if you're using heavier weights. You could get a little bit of bruising, a little bit of discomfort on the shoulders. It's totally normal. If you have a hard time holding the bar in that traditional front rack position, there are a couple of options that you have to work with your mobility and still be able to do a front squat. So the next available option is crossing your hands. So the bar stays in the same position, right? You're still gonna have, it's gonna be like up against your throat, really high up behind your front delts. But instead of holding your fingers underneath, you're actually gonna cross your arms over the bar. And really, in reality, your hands are just kind of like a stability factor. You're not holding the weight in your hands. So that's something to be very aware of. That could be limiting mobility. If you feel like your wrist is taking a lot of the weight, then you're not doing it right. You don't want to be holding the weight in your hands. It's actually resting on your shoulders. And then your hands are just there to kind of keep it stable, right? It's like the same thing as a back squat. The bar is either resting on your traps or on your rear delts, depending on if you're doing high bar or low bar, and your hands are just there to like keep it in place. It's the same idea with the front squat. So even though your hands are in front of you, you're not holding the weight here. So yeah, you can cross your arms over if you don't have the shoulder mobility to have the front rack position. The only thing that I would be very wary of if you're gonna do the cross arm, your elbows, that cue of your elbows being up is still a cue. It's still like super important for you to make sure that your elbows are up. A lot of times if the elbows start to fall, it also can kind of lead to a little bit of torso leaning forward and your chest kind of caving in. That's definitely not what we want. The third option for lack of mobility, if the crossing your arms doesn't really work for you, you can take some wrist straps and wrap them around the bar and grip them in that way so that you're still here. We still have elbows up. We're still pulling upward to like keep the bar stable, but it doesn't require as much mobility on that one. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, and like, subscribe, share, all of the good things. I'm really digging this barbell series, barbell training. Like I said in the beginning, it's saved my life. It did a lot of things. It's built confidence. It's built strength. It's made me better in other sports. So I really hope you're getting a lot out of this series, and I can't wait to share some bench with you guys next week, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Don't forget to get your shit together.
If you wanna be amazing, or the better place, draw lanes around me. I seen it from the ground.